A's Cast Live continues from the studio. Here's Chris Townsend.
Studio? We're in Nashville.
Oh, remote studio.
The remote studio in Nashville, Tennessee. A's Cast Live, Dave 3. You know who this guy is. He's the general manager of your Oakland Athletics, David Forst. David, usually we have you at the very beginning.
Right.
We're now getting you at the very end. And obviously the day is not over for you because you guys have the Rule 5 draft.
We do. Yeah, everybody sticks around from the last day, wait till the Rule 5 draft, and then it's a mad dash for the Uber line to get to the airport.
And the Rule 5, my guy Ryan Noda, you know I love him. He's fantastic. So, and then go back to Mark Hanna. You have fished very well in this pond.
We've done a nice job over the years. Yeah, the two guys you mentioned, I think, are probably two of the better position player picks over the last decade. So anytime you have a chance at this price to maybe get an everyday major league player, you have to take that opportunity. And Ryan worked out great last year.
What is when you look at it, just take us through because you have the first pick.
We do.
So you're going to get who you want. Just take us through the process of how you go through the information, finding a guy somewhere who you go, you know what, he's blocked. Probably usually a guy that's blocked because Ryan Noda was blocked.
Yeah.
So,
and Canna was too in the Marlins system. I mean, there are a couple different ways to approach this draft, and I think teams have different philosophies. We've never sort of gone for that high upside, toolsy A-ball guy who you just hope to hide for a year and then develop him yourself. We've always tried to find guys who can contribute right away. And all the way back, I mean, I think about Mike New back in 2003, our head baseball coach at Cal now. And then over the years, we've tried to find guys who can contribute immediately. And we mentioned Canna and Noda, but you look at position player wise, the skills that you think will translate. And with both those guys, it was plate discipline, it was power, it was things they did offensively that you thought they could sort of stay afloat in the big leagues. On the pitcher side, you look, obviously, it's stuff. Swing and miss is important, throwing strikes. You don't want guys burying themselves in base runners. So I think we have a pretty good feel now, from over the years, what we think will translate.
Because you got to have the guy for the entire year.
Yeah.
Do you think it's easier to have a guy all year long as a pitcher or a position player?
I think it's actually changed a little bit. It used to be like you could take a reliever who threw gas and put him in the back of the bullpen. The way we run bullpens now, though, with guys, getting options so many times and looking for fresh arms, you're a Rule 5 guy. You're basically adding a guy with no options to your pen, and he's kind of stuck there. That's a harder thing to do these days than it used to be. So I don't know. You have 13-man bench, which we didn't always have. Maybe it's easier for position player, but more than anything, you're looking for a guy who can compete in the big leagues right away.
Speaking of getting optioned, halfway,
you're not sending me out, are you, Chris?
Halfway here, as I'm watching Elvis on my Southwest flight, I started to realize, oh my God, this is what we did to all of our minor leaguers. Like, this isn't like Sacramento just going I-80. This isn't going to Vegas. This was Matt Olson went up 8,000 times.
That's right.
Up and down.
He was in Nashville that year.
How many
back and forth? I remember there was one time we sent him out. We were in Citi Field playing the Mets. We sent him out, and I was like, "Oh, that's a decent flight. He can just get back to Nashville." But every time else, he was in Oakland, sending him out. Yeah, look, it's a great city. It was a great ballpark for us to open and be with, a good organization for 4 years. But I think Mickey lost a couple years on his life trying to figure out those flights.
Wow, I was saying that's like a 4.5 hour flight. I mean, going to the big leagues is great, but you get sent down and you got 4.5 hours. That'd be a whole different thing. Dave Stewart, obviously, we had Stu on. He was going to bring number one. Number one didn't happen. Number 4.
Yeah.
I know how you do business. Whatever happens, happens. You got to be, hey, you're the guy that steers the ship. Everybody else can freak out. You can't freak out. I mean, I know you're not happy about it, but still you can get a good player at 4.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there are good players out there all over the first round, all over the draft. So, yeah, there's some initial disappointment. And, I think we tried not to get our hopes up too much after what happened last year. But that's hard. You're still, you're still hopeful that a number one pick can kind of change your draft, change your organization. It didn't happen. Eric's getting together with the scouts tonight, and they'll kind of commiserate, and then everybody moves on. And we have scouting meetings planned for the end of January, and we'll start breaking down the group, and guys will head out in February to see games, and it'll be business as usual.
Yeah, I mean, now the draft's not till July, so we got a long time till that happens.
I know. Yeah. Another thing that we just deal with.
All right, here we haven't had a whole lot of movement. You're talking to all the different people. I mean, obviously, you're not sitting there in the Ohtani thing, but what are you hearing about not a lot of movement going on here in Nashville?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say if something like that is holding up the whole market. I mean, we always get to the winter meetings, and after 24 hours, people complain that nothing's happening and when's it going to go, and then usually it does. This time it seems like the dam hasn't really broken. A couple small trades, couple small signings, but everybody that I talk to, both on the agent and the club side, they're doing their due diligence, they're having the conversations. It just, I don't know what's going to change for people to be ready to sort of pull the trigger. I mean, we always come here and try and be patient. We're never going to set the market. We're never going to, I say never. Up until now, we're not playing at the top of the market. Obviously, the goal is down the road a few years to compete there. But right now, patience is our friend, and try not to jump out too much on deals that we're not 100% sure on.
Yeah, you're paving the road here, right, for what you're going to do once we probably get January, maybe February.
For sure, yeah. And I know it's not sexy to fans to hear like, oh, you're having conversations, you're like laying the foundation, but it's what you have to do. You have to sort of check in with everybody and know what the options are, and then you leave here. We'll meet with the group when we get back in the office next week and sort of figure out, okay, what are our priorities?
And I'm sure, and you've talked about it. There's starting to become hopefully some ideas of where we're going to play in 2025 and beyond. But I'm sure that's, the agents are asking you that question. If you're looking to give somebody a multi-year deal, which you normally don't give a lot of multi-year deals, but just talk like those conversations about the future. Right. I mean, always the future is a little murky how that's going.
Yeah. I mean, where are we playing after 24 is sort of the multi-million dollar question. And I don't have a great answer right now for agents. I mean, obviously we expect to be somewhere, on the West Coast. There are options being floated out there. And, but ultimately, if we're talking about more than a 1-year deal, I kind of have to just do my best and say, hey, we're putting the team together. We expect to compete. Like, yeah, but it's TBD.
To me, I'm kind of like, man, don't worry about it. Get here and let's play. We're paying you a lot of money. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, and it's easy. You're
in the big leagues. You're not going to be playing in.
No, I know, but these guys have families and they want to know where they are and where do they go from spring training and what kind of place are they set up in. Like, these are all parts of the equations, particularly for free agents who've worked so hard to get to that point and want to be able to kind of sort of write their own destiny here. So it's all part of it. I get it.
Pitching, inning, starts, everybody's looking for it. We're next to the Cardinal guys. They went out and bought it right away. I mean, it's like sometimes you don't even worry about ERAs. I need innings. So is that the biggest priority, to find somebody that that can take the ball every 5 days?
I think it's what we're spending the most time on. I mean, again, whether we're able to sort of get that is a question mark, but yeah, I mean, we have some real talent and we made some progress. And again, I talk about Blackburn and Medina and Sears and Boyle and Estes. Ken is a question mark because of his health. Kyle's going to get another opportunity to come in and get stretched out and start. But it's not super deep right now. You're not getting through the season with 7-8 starters. Like, we need innings. And you saw where we were in April and the beginning of May last year. Like, we had a bunch of guys come out of the game in the second and third inning, and it just dominoes and it's hard to watch. So you need innings. Yeah. It's not sexy, but you need innings.
Ken Waldichuk, we put out the release.
Yeah.
It was a strain. So it's not a tear. Or we're not going to play doctor here, but it was like, and then he had a procedure I'd never even heard of.
Yeah, it's called a 10X procedure where you go in under ultrasound and you can sort of break up the scarring and then put a PRP injection in there. I agree. I had to read up on it too when Brian Schulman sort of explained it to me, but he felt it in his last start. He had the MRI right after the season. There is, both flexor and UCL involvement, but, he saw Dr. Elatrash, who didn't think it was surgical, and Ken really wanted to try and go, I guess we call the conservative route and rehab it. So he's doing great. I talked to him last week, 3 times a week rehab. One of our athletic trainers, Elliot Deal's down there in San Diego with him. And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll get an idea on what his throwing schedule looks like.
I have this belief watching him, and when he is good, at some point with athletes, the light turns on. I think when that light turns on for him, he's going to be tough to hit.
And I think we saw a lot of that in the second half of the season. I thought Emo did a great job with Ken. We moved him to the pen. They got him some low leverage outings, 2-3 innings. His stuff ticked up. I mean, I think back to his outing down in Florida against the Marlins, and he was throwing the ball great. He gave up a homer, I think, to either Soler or De La Cruz, and it kind of ruined his outing. But there were so many positives to take away. And from that point on, we went into Milwaukee, pitched well, and he really was basically our most consistent guy after the All-Star break.
Guys that throw really hard and have a hard time staying healthy become bullpen guys and become very productive. You recently have done it with AJ Puck.
Yeah.
You've talked about it with Mason Miller. I remember when Mason Miller was getting called up and we had you on up in the treehouse and you said, we're going to give it an opportunity and see what happens. And of course he got hurt, but yeah. I love the idea. Like, he's a dynamic arm. I don't know if he can go every 5 days, but if you can keep him healthy in the pen, man, he can. So the plan now?
Yeah, that's the plan. And I compared Mason to AJ the other night when I talked to the writers. It's not, it's not an exact comp, but yeah, I mean, Mason's tried starting now over 3 years, minor leagues, big leagues, keeps coming up with something, and we're going to try the pen. And to Mason's credit, he's open to whatever. He's obviously a little disappointed. I think everybody wants to be a starter when it comes down to it, but I mean, he, obviously, like you said, with his stuff, he could have a really impressive career in the bullpen. But we told him this is not permanent. Like, go out there, let's try and keep you healthy for a year. That's got to be the first step. That way you help yourself, you help the team, and then we can reevaluate. That's
where the good comp is with AJ Puck, because I talked about it in the postgame show, constantly going, sometimes I don't even care what the line is. It's just, does he come tomorrow and can he keep playing and not go on the DL? And he was able to do that. We had Kotz on yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to pump you up here because I think spring training is going to be different this year. Spring training, I think we're going to have a lot of competition. I think you got a lot of good young athletes. I think this going into this year, as we're going to say, it's not sexy, but I think going into this year, this spring training with all the young athletes that you have, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I think it is going to be fun. I mean, you look back on last spring training before we sort of ruined it with our April and May. It was exciting. There was there was an idea that like some of these guys were coming. Some of them arrived, and now it's different that they're competing for big league jobs instead of just sort of they're the prospects on the horizon. I'm talking about, the Geloffs, the Tylers, the Lawrences, and these other guys. So, look, we're going to have a big camp. This, we're not quite there yet on numbers, but this is probably going to be our biggest camp since I've been here, because when you have opportunity, you're able to sign guys from the outside, 6-year free agents. We'll sign some major league free agents. We have a lot of prospects we want to have in camp, non-roster guys like Muncy and Harris and, and some of these other guys. So it's going to be a big camp, and you're right, there's going to be a lot of competition. So Kotz does such a good job of setting the tone and creating a culture for all these guys coming together right from day one.
Is there a spot where there's not a competition?
I mean, the guy at second base is going to be at second base.
Do you know my comp for him?
Ryan Sandberg?
Ryan Sandberg.
Just a guess. Yeah.
Ryan Sandberg.
I think I've heard that one.
I think it's a good comp.
Look, I mean, the way Zach hit the ground running and didn't really have a blip over the last couple of months, it's pretty rare for a young player to come up and do that. I mean, what a lot of other guys do, going up and down, and that's more normal. So Zach's 2.5 months in the big leagues are pretty exciting.
What does Ryan know to do?
Gets on base.
He gets on base. He's terrific defensively. Those two guys right there. I see that. Your catcher, I think, is pretty locked in too.
I think Shea turned the real corner, the last 6 weeks of the year offensively. I know he's talked a lot with Bushy over the offseason. They're going to keep him on track. So, yeah, you got those guys. JJ Bleday is going to be healthy. Nick Allen was a different guy the last time he came up. And And then everybody from, Jordan Diaz to the two guys we picked up, Andujar and Toro, like, yeah, there's going to be competition. There's going to be some new faces. If you can't get excited about spring training, I'm not sure what we're doing.
Yeah, and I just more athletic. I feel like the team is more athletic. Do you feel like you've built? It's so many years we dealt with walks and home runs, and now this is more kind of a more athletic squad.
I don't mind walks and homers.
I know you like it. I know you like it.
Just for the record,
Brent Rooker, 30 bombs.
But no, I mean, Zach runs, SD runs. Lawrence obviously did it when he came up. So no, you're right. There's some real athleticism out there.
Do you see Rooker being more of a DH?
I don't think we have the luxury of just plugging someone in the DH. I think we're better as a roster when guys can move around. And Brent did a nice job out in right field at times. So I think we have the flexibility to play him out there. I think the fact that Noda can go out to the outfield provides a lot of flexibility. Brownie does the same first in the outfield. Andujar can play first and left field. Toro goes third to first. I think you have to build flexibility into the roster to give Kotz options. I mean, guys need days off. As much as we sort of build a lineup versus right and versus left and try and do it, it doesn't work that way, or the way it does on paper. It doesn't work that way every day. So you need that flexibility.
And you have multiple guys who can play a legit center field, like a legit center field.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot for us because, you saw SD, you saw Lawrence, you saw JJ out there. And then we've got more guys coming, a non-roster guy like Max Schumann can play out there. So, yeah, it's an important spot to figure out what we're going to do every day.
So let's end on this. I know you got to go. You got oh, wait, do you have a name for him for the Rule 5?
Okay, I got 3 of them.
You're making suggestions?
They're all 3 from the same draft.
We have the first pick.
That's correct.
He gets whoever he wants.
You broke that news to me. So Cole Wilcox, former Georgia kid.
I'm familiar with his work.
Tanner Burns, a kid from Auburn.
Same, yeah.
And Asa Lacey, who on this program I said would go to the Royals as well. Those are 3 guys I like.
Okay.
I don't know if you do, but I'm telling you, I like those guys.
I'll take it under advisement.
That's why I'm here.
A lot of SEC guys.
Yeah. I mean, all in the same draft, all 2020 draft,
yeah.
all 24 years old, all starting pitchers who can maybe throw innings.
You like fastballs. I get it. You pitching. So Cody thinks we need pitching out of the Rule 5 draft.
Can these guys go 5 innings? That's what I want to know.
That's the hopefully.
Can you at least go 5? That's all. Dan O'Dowd, I love him on MLB Network. He's very kind to always come on this show. Jim Duquette was on the show. A lot of the people that, when you were first coming up, they were general managers, and we've been very fortunate that they've taken to the show and we get to have them on. But, yesterday, Dan O'Dowd, I talked about, what you're going through, and it was a fabulous cut and talked about really about who you are as a person, because most people, he said, in our position wouldn't be able to do it. He says it takes such a special person with not only intellect, but patience. And there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of caring that has to go on below you, because there's a lot of people that, going through rebuilds and stuff and multiple times is very, very hard. But he had some really kind words to talk about the respect that the job, because I don't think people understand that, you're getting thrown out. And I remember with Billy, when I used to do the Billy Bean show, he was so tired of people asking about the ballpark, and like, I'm in charge of baseball. I don't do architecture. I don't do any of that. Like, Billy hated that. And now you're getting so much of that. And you know nothing about designing buildings and politics and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's not your job. It's like, so just know this, that the people who cover this game and have been GMs, they have a lot of respect for what you're doing, because what you continue to do, what you continue to build, it hasn't been easy.
Well, I appreciate that. And I always appreciate Dan. He's incredibly generous and kind with not only his words, but his time. I mean, he's one of the guys when I started just sort of watching him and listening to his words. I mean, you can, when you're young in this game, if you just watch GMs do interviews and you read their quotes, Dan was one of the guys. Brian Cashman's always been one of those guys. You mentioned Jim Duquette too, who was in a big market in New York. If you just watch and listen, you can learn a lot about how you want to handle yourself. And Dan was a guy like that. And he'll shoot me a text every now and again. And I think you said he went through a rebuild in Cleveland when he was assistant GM.
With the Rockies.
Yeah. And then always had a tough time with the Rockies and got them to the World Series, obviously, in 2007. But No, I appreciate Dan. I appreciate all these guys who've reached out and has been through, similar stuff. I said the other night, I think our situation is actually unique because I don't think anybody's gone through this. That word gets used a lot, and people say this is unique, whatever. Like, no one has been through a situation where they didn't know where they were playing. They didn't know exactly when or where the ballpark was going to be. I think our people have handled it incredibly well. I'm really proud of our player development people, our scouting people, and my group in the front office who've sort of stayed on task and focused and gotten through 2, admittedly rough years, but continued to sort of have this passion for the organization, for the A's, and want to continue to do well and put a good product out there.
Great stuff.
Thanks, Chris.
Rule 5 draft.
Here it comes. Happy Hanukkah.
Enjoy yourself with the family.
All right.
All right, what do we got next?
Sam Fold.
We can't beat Sam Fold.
Phillies GM.
That's a pretty close second.
Sam Fold. Not bad. Another GM. Always appreciate it.
Cody's doing the booking here. It's a bang-up job.
I mean,
and Rule 5 suggestions. I mean, I'm doing it all for you.
Hey, no one's had better guests than us down here.
I believe
Nobody.
it.
We're tearing it up. We got more coming up next right here on A's Cast Live.